I know you felt it. Freezing temps, wind, even snow from Carlsbad all the way north to Durango. Winter making itself known in New Mexico. Freezing weather caused icy roads and school closures yesterday. In Albuquerque, people were left in the cold, from freezing fishermen at Tingley Beach to bundled up shoppers at Uptown. And as Kristen just mentioned, the cold weather is not over just yet. The blast of winter weather also may be to blame for the massive pileup in Texas near the New Mexico state line. Look at this video. A 25-car crash shut down I-40 eastbound in Potter County yesterday. The driver of a semi was taken to the hospital with minor injuries. Luckily, no one was seriously hurt there. Temps in that area, they were in the teens. And we will continue to follow this winter weather all day on air and online at KRQE.com.
5:02, hundreds of New Mexico high schoolers are expected to return to class after a protest over state testing. The group walked out of Capitol High School in Santa Fe on Monday, saying they're sick of being judged by the park test. When the administration wouldn't let them leave, the students rammed a gate, and one student took it a step further.
I saw a dude hitting the lock with a pickaxe at first. Then next, the truck tried pulling it off with rope.
Santa Fe police cited the student who damaged the gate. He was released to his parents. The park test is an annual critical thinking assessment for kids in grades 3 through 12. It covers math, English, and language arts. One parent who isn't letting her daughter take the test says the park isn't fair. Cheryl Florence says she did some research and decided not to make her daughter, a fourth grader, take it. She says the tests have little to do with her daughter's actual grades at all. Based on the testing, the state gives the school a letter grade. Florence says that is not fair for teachers.
It's not an accurate representation of what the teachers deal with every day. In my daughter's classroom, there's 22 children that each come from different backgrounds and have different things happening at home. Much testing.
So Florence filled out a form to opt out. In Albuquerque, more than 450 parents are opting out. In Santa Fe, at least 10 parents. Florence says her daughter did take a standardized test last year and she had high scores, which she knows could also help a school's grade, but she says she just doesn't see the point.
APS says it is ready to turn students away again this morning if they're not up to date on their vaccines and don't have a waiver. Yesterday, the district started turning students away from school. The district says about 250 students were sent home. APS had identified about 500 students Friday who had not been vaccinated, did not have proof of vaccinations, and did not have a valid waiver. As of Friday, officials say almost 400 other students had provided valid waivers.
So it's been his dream ever since he was a kid. Now a UNM grad student is one step closer to making it into outer space. And not just anywhere. The student has his eyes on the red planet. News 13's Catherine Mazzone is in the Newsplex with more on his story. Catherine.
Good morning, Adam. Zachary Gallegos knew he had the background and the enthusiasm for space exploration. But that doesn't mean he wasn't thrilled to learn he had made the next round for the Mars One program.
It was an email, and when I first got it, I was so excited.
Gallegos is one of 100 people chosen to participate in the Mars One program. We were there when he sat down for the interview with organizers. Gallegos was chosen out of 200,000 candidates from 140 different countries competing to participate in the program. The Bosque Farms native is the only New Mexican to make it to the list of finalists. He tells us he believes the trip is a great advancement for space exploration and even the future of our civilization. Thing is, this is a one-way ticket. Once Gallegos is chosen and commits to the mission, he's not coming back. But Gallegos says he's okay with that.
I've always known that I was going to do this. Ever since I was a little kid, I told myself if I could, go out and explore the solar system, the galaxy, whatever, that I would be happy not coming back.
The Mars One mission will attempt to establish the first human colony on the planet. The program already has enough funding for their lander. They're now looking for corporate sponsors and private donors. Gallegos says they're planning for 2018. Back to you.
That's remarkable for Gallegos. That trip's not a sure thing just yet. Coming up in our next half hour, we'll tell you what's next for the grad student.
In other news, police are investigating the disturbing discovery of the bodies of two men found inside a trailer in Belen. Police say the bodies were found yesterday in the home near First and Vivian, next to the railroad tracks. The chief tells us it looks like this is either a double murder or a murder-suicide. Investigators are looking at a truck that was parked outside of that home.
A man is dead after an Amtrak train hit him on the tracks in Bernalillo. Police say that man was lying between the rails yesterday. No one on the train heading for Chicago was hurt, but those 104 passengers did have to wait for hours while police investigated. The man's name has not been released. We've now learned what may have led to the stabbing of a man in northeast Albuquerque over the weekend. APD says Natasha Lee, pictured here, and 43-year-old Durward Skeet were arguing at a mutual friend's apartment. That argument spilled outside near Wyoming and Central, where police say she stabbed him several times. News 13 dug up the criminal complaint. In it, we learned Lee told police she didn't know the victim, but said that Skeet was bugging her and looking at her strangely. Skeet later died in the hospital, and Lee is charged with an open count of murder.
Congress is running out of time to pass a bill that would fund the Department of Homeland Security. Yesterday, Senate Democrats filibustered the GOP funding proposal because it was linked to provisions that would repeal the president's executive action on immigration. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell plans to separate the two issues to calm the situation. He plans on bringing a separate bill that would block President Obama's actions this week. U.S. lawmakers have until Friday to pass the Homeland Security Fund or face a shutdown.
As you wake up today, as you heard Kristen say, cold temperatures are gripping much of the state. The Duke City definitely feeling the chill, from fishermen toughing it out at Tingley Beach to shoppers at Uptown braving the cold. People we spoke with say it's hard to believe it was so warm just a week ago.
Last week was so nice. All of a sudden, I saw a Home Depot getting the flour out, and I was very surprised.
A lot of people did see that. Some others are welcoming the change, though. Dozens in Taos took advantage of the fresh snow there. Ski Santa Fe and Ruidoso also report quite a bit of new snow.
As Kristen just mentioned, this is what is headed our way. Look at this. A snowstorm passed Flagstaff, Arizona yesterday. As you can see, it left quite the mess behind, but a beautiful sight for some.
Take a look at this. This is a live camera from NM Roads. This is I-40 westbound near Gallup. The snow is already covering the ground there. Looks like we're in for that. So we're going to continue to follow the winter weather, track it throughout the morning and throughout the day. You can follow us on air and online at KRQE.com.
Now, you probably remember the UNM grad student picked as a finalist for a one-way trip to Mars. Now comes the hard part. He has to prove he can work as a team to survive on Mars. So how do you do that? News 13's Catherine Razone spoke with him to find out. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning, Crystal. That's a great question. Zachary Gallegos was chosen out of 200,000 people. But before he makes the final cut, he has to train with Mars One.
It's not for sure that I'm going right now. I still have to prove that I'm, the best candidate, and I have to help my team prove that they're the best team for the job.
Zachary Gallegos tells us he'll be matched with a team to train with Mars One. He says the process involves going out into the desert with capsules to simulate what it'll be like to live on Mars. Gallegos says that means they won't even be able to go outside without spacesuits on. He says it's important that they learn to work together as a team. Plus, Gallegos tells us the program doesn't choose individuals for their mission. They choose entire teams.
We won't know who is actually selected to go to Mars up until the last few months before the mission, because that much training and that much selection is going to be involved.
Now here's the tough part. Gallegos says if one member of a team backs out, that means the whole team is out of the process. He says he's yet to meet any of his teammates or fellow candidates. Back to you, Crystal.
Sounds interesting. Thanks so much, Catherine. Gallegos says a total of 16 people will be chosen for the mission, made up of 4 groups of 4 every 2 years. He hopes the program chooses New Mexico for their training.
This morning, a man deputies linked to the murder of a woman who was missing last summer is now behind bars. Taos County deputies arrested Ivan Dennings Kales Jr. in connection with the death of Roxanne Houston, whose body was found on Christmas. Her remains were discovered by a hiker in rural Taos County. Investigators believe she died from a blow to the head. He was found at a shelter in Santa Fe. They have not said how they linked him to that crime. A judge is not dismissing the case against the man accused of shooting an APD officer. Now, Christopher Cook, accused of injuring Officer Lou Golson, will stand trial in December. A war of words erupted between the defense and the prosecution in court. Cook's attorney said the case should be thrown out because he's missing dozens of pieces of key evidence, but the state fired back.
So with that list of missing items, Judge, I'd suggest that this case is not ready for trial. It's not appropriate to be certified as ready for trial, and that when this was indicted, the state was behind the 8 ball.
Your Honor, there is not words for the level to which I completely disagree with what defense just argued. He leaves out a very, very critical piece of the argument, which is that every last bit of this is available on evidence.com.
The judge said things will move forward. Officer Golson was shot 4 times during a DWI traffic stop last month. It's expected to take a year for him to recover.
The New Mexico sheriff who stood up to the feds is now asking for a congressional review of that incident. Eddy County Sheriff Scott London says the U.S. Department of Justice, the IRS, and 2 federal judges violated Kent Carter's right to due process when armed U.S. Marshals tried to evict the family renting Carter's home. A 20-year-old woman and her baby were there at the time. Carter had not paid his taxes and the home was set to be auctioned off, but according to court documents, Carter appealed and never had his day in court. Representative Steve Pierce says he is asking congressional committees to look into that matter. A special prosecutor is now assigned to investigate a company that a News 13 Larry Barker investigation exposed was stealing from employees. In Larry's investigative report earlier this month, he found Taos's Tri-County Community Services had been stealing from employees because it ran into financial trouble. Workers thought they were paying for health care, but their money was actually being used to cover company expenses. Now News 13 has learned the Insurance Fraud Bureau is looking into that case. If you want to see Larry's full story, go to KRQE.com.
Time's 5:37. Police are searching for some vandals who hit one of Albuquerque's oldest buildings. Over the weekend, somebody climbed more than 6 floors, tagging the west and north sides of the Sunshine building at 2nd and Central. That 90-year-old building is part of the National Historic Registry, and property managers aren't sure now how to clean it up. They are worried the cleanup could damage the building. Investigators are using surveillance video to try to catch the taggers. Just last month, the Downtown Action Team cleaned up 600 tags downtown. Boy, dangerous high-speed chase in California, reaching speeds of up to 135 miles per hour. In fact, at one point, a woman jumped out of the truck and took off toward a home. But the driver didn't stop even after slamming into another vehicle. Officers were finally able to catch up with the suspect after he hit a smaller car. Nobody was hurt. He did eventually get out, crawled on the ground, where officers were finally able to arrest him. It's still not clear what charges that man is facing.
A scary scene off the shores in Florida when a boat leaves the water at a high rate of speed and plows through a restaurant. Officials say yesterday the person steering the boat could not see because of the fog and ended up beaching the vessel before crashing. One person was trapped in that crash. Luckily, no one else was seriously hurt, not anyone inside the restaurant as well.
Close shave there, though.